A while back ago, we worked with a company that had started building their software on the cloud a few years back. And now they had new clients and leads asking to be onboarded because the product's user experience was awesome. However, the company couldn't add any new clients to their platform as the software couldn't handle any more load. Simply because you build on the cloud doesn't mean that your software will scale when you need it to. Building software that scales when your customers grow takes a lot of effort, need a lot of thoughts around resiliency, flexibility, and scalability. We have seen time and time again where cloud-based software has gone wrong. At the same time, embedding resiliency, security, and flexibility into your software need investment in your foundation upfront, takes a lot of time and costs a fair bit of money. To that end, we have built a foundation ticking all those boxes that gives your team all they need to start building for a scale with no upfront investment. It's portable as well, so you can take it anywhere, anytime if you wanted to. And with us, when your customer base grows, there is no need to rebuild. Your software grows with you. Using our managed API service or backend as a service, you start building cloud-native APIs on a solid infrastructure within minutes. We have baked in a fair bit of best practices around engineering, security, scalability, compliance, and developer experience by a strong team of engineers, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. However, before we dive into our managed API service, a bit of background about Pellerex. Pellerex has been built for software engineers and companies to ship scalable cloud-native software incredibly fast. We are doing that by taking care of the foundational building blocks such as identity, payment, DevOps, infrastructure, security, compliance, and governance, which are crucial to your software, but take a lot of time to implement, and they are not really adding direct value to the core of your product. While doing that, we have aimed at streamlining your developer experience and productivity by giving you full control over your apps and APIs. So you get to work just on the product and not the supporting infrastructure. So basically how it works is with Pellerex, with just a click of a button, your API foundation is set up. Out of the box, we provide you with a ready-to-use and load-balanced and versioned API backed by a repository, a database, your DevOps pipelines. They are codified CI/CD pipelines within your repository, configuration and secret management, along with all the compliance and guardrails applied on a containerized cloud infrastructure for commercial workload. At the code level, you will have access to ready-to-use scaffolds in your preferred language. That comes optionally with configuration, secret management, API documentation, monitoring, logging, and database access settings integrated with insight analyzers. Alternatively, you can get an empty repository if you didn't want to start with this scaffold. At the DevOps level, repositories, as I mentioned, come with codified CI/CD pipelines and Docker files. Built artifacts and images are pushed into image registries automatically with configurations baked in those images and loaded at runtime according to the environment variables. Helm charts are used for deployment on a containerized infrastructure. Once your API is deployed within a couple of minutes, you can start consuming your API immediately as containers are spun up. Every code change you push to your repository leverages the automated deployment to your environment. At the end, when your API is built and deployed, you would be able to call and consume your endpoints in a matter of minutes. All your endpoints are protected using our claim-based identity system, so your APIs and data are safe from unauthorized usage. All APIs are load balanced and rate limited, and powered by our containerized infrastructure, you can build enterprise applications with your backend hosted on Pellerex for any scale. From the developer experience point of view, we don't get in your way or restrict you on what to do with your API or how to do it. You can build your database in a manner of your choosing, have your own branching models, apply configurations the way you want it, call other APIs and external systems, deploy heavy-duty AI models with it, or perform sophisticated calculations however you like. Because you have access to code, basically you are free to do whatever your API needs to do. This means you will get everything you need to start developing your API and contributing directly towards your product without worrying about the underlying ecosystem. In terms of the use cases for Pellerex, you would use it because you might want to build new software with a scalable backend in a way that you don't have to rebuild for growth, as we have embedded the majority of the scale and flexibility factors into our platform. In other words, with Pellerex, you can scale to any level at any time if you wanted to. Also, companies who have built their product using low-code or no-code applications and have struggled to scale their operations due to the increased workload or business complexity can rely on our backend as a service to scale their product. Alternatively, you could use Pellerex to transform legacy software assets. Not only will you have a resilient, flexible, and scalable software base already set up for enterprise scale, but also the productivity and cost saving on enforcing compliance and governance will be substantial across your entire platform. If you have 25, 30, 50 Scrum teams, it would be very easy to apply all the policies across the board. Your transformation teams will also be provisioning apps and APIs one after another with close to zero effort. Other use cases are AI as a service, where you can make your AI models available to your customers within minutes, really with no work done on your engineering foundation. You can also build data-driven APIs with the database of your choice, being relational or NoSQL database. Our scaffolds come with pre-configured settings to manage some of the migrations should you decide to use it. Alternatively, if you have APIs or models that need heavy-duty compute infrastructure like GPU, you are covered there too, as it will be very cost-effective for you with Pellerex to run them on our infrastructure. So I guess we have covered a lot of reasons why you should be using such a platform like Pellerex. However, to cover that part specifically, our methodology has been tested at enterprise and startup levels to deliver new software build as well as transformation programs at a scale. Pellerex is the only cloud-native solution that offers an end-to-end digital platform to provision cloud-native software assets like apps and APIs at such speed at the code, DevOps, and infrastructure level, while contributing to productivity, cost reduction, risk, compliance, and governance. At the product level, it is probably the fastest cloud-native solution provider through which you can launch APIs within a matter of minutes. All your API endpoints will be secured and protected by an OAuth identity system, and the cost-effective plans provide a pathway toward a maintainable software base. On top of that, it abstracts all the underlying complexity, such as engineering, DevOps, and infrastructure. Let's go through a quick demo to show you how it works in action. Our prices include 3 tiers, so you can start building with basically no credit card required. After you subscribe to a plan, here is the process to get your API up and running on the cloud. You basically select your API stack. If you want Python or .NET that we support at the moment, we will be adding more and more stacks in the near future. Then you choose a friendly name and URL through which you would be calling your API. Now you could set up the entire environment with just a click of a button here in this screen. It creates a DevOps project space. It sends your team an invitation to join our DevOps organization, creates a repository according to your chosen stack. It installs your codified build and deployment pipelines, which come as part of your repository. It applies all the relevant compliance settings, such as default code reviewers and branch policies, and finally creates a route through which you call your API. And in this screen, you can see the results. This is a summary. You must have received an invite to join our DevOps organization. You could use the below link to access your repository to push your code changes, and then call your API through the API URL at the bottom. Once you go to your dashboard, you should see the APIs you have provisioned under the Managed API service. If you click on each one, you can view all the properties associated with them. Looking at the pipeline, it will take a couple of minutes for your build and deployment pipelines to go green. And once they did, call your API with a tool like Postman. And for that purpose, you can go to your API endpoint tab and grab the URL. If you send the request now, you will get a 401 unauthorized error, which shows you that your API is protected and you need to provide credentials. If you head back to your dashboard and grab our identity URL in the API tab, you can authenticate and get your JOT token and use it in the Postman. Choose basic auth as your authentication type and use your account credentials to call the endpoint with a post request. If you now copy the access token and use it as a JOT token to call your API, you will receive a 404 not found response code. And it is because you are calling your root API address without a route. The default route as part of your API needs a v1/hello at the end. Once you amend your URL, you will get the sample payload back. Obviously, you can change your routes and your versioning however you please. This is just for a hello world, it gets started sample demo. Now head back to your dashboard and get your repository URL. And as you can see, here is the hello endpoint you just called, which is filled with some boilerplate code to make it easier for you to get started. Now that you have called your API a couple of times, you should be able to see the logs in the monitoring tab, along with the filters you can apply to search through them. Also, note that some logs might appear with a bit of a delay. This is how we fetch the logs from the underlying systems. And finally, in the usage status, you can access high-level stats on the number of successful or failed calls, or the ones which have been denied because your limit might have been reached. And you would need to upgrade your package and opt in for auto scaling. And that's in a nutshell how Pellerex Managed API service works. We are adding more and more functions and stacks into our platform every day, and keen to hear your thoughts and feedback on what we build next. See you soon.